Hey guys, how's it going? So it is almost the end of 2024, so it is now the time to catch up on any movies that you have missed this year, any movies that you didn't get the chance to watch this year, and one of those movies for me was Oddity, and I just watched it the other day, and boy was I missing out. Wow. Look, when I saw that Vecna looking ass wooden doll mannequin thing, I was really worried that this movie was going to be cheesy, but I was wrong, and boy do I love being wrong when it comes to a movie and a movie exceeding my expectation. So let's take a look at Oddity.
I am telling you that there is someone in there with you.
Oddity is an Irish horror film written and directed by Damian McCarthy and follows a blind woman who is essentially psychic as she tries to figure out who murdered her twin sister through means of reading personal items and the help of a large wooden mannequin. So let's start at the beginning because right away I love the setting of this movie. We essentially have 2 to 3 settings. The main setting is the home of a psychiatrist named Ted, who was the husband of Danny, the woman who passed away. The home is extremely atmospheric. It's unique and beautiful and depicted as a rustic, renovated country house located in a rural area of Ireland. It's got this very old feeling to it with the use of cobblestone, but also very trendy and modern with all of the renovations that have taken place, and it becomes increasingly more eerie and unsettling as the story unfolds, and it just has a way of drawing you in. In addition to the atmospheric setting, we have a handful of really great characters. Every character in this movie holds some sort of purpose. There's hardly any filler characters, which is something I love about the movie, and we get some really unique and interesting character dynamics going on here, not to mention some thought-provoking dilemmas that some of our characters are placed into, which really draws the audience's attention in and makes you ask yourself, what would you do? What would I do? What would Jesus do? For example, in the beginning of the movie, when we see the events that unfold leading up to the murder of Danny, we see one of Ted's patients outside of her door telling her that she is in danger, and he saw someone go inside of her house while her back was turned and she was in her car. It's very much the call is coming from inside the house moment, and this patient is asking her to let him in. So it's an interesting dilemma to analyze because of course you don't let a stranger into your home, especially one that is a psych patient, but then again, his warnings seem to be increasingly believable, increasingly unsettling, and of course you can't go outside because he may be a threat, but he may be very well right that there is someone in your home with you that may want to harm you. Very scary. It's like worst case scenario. Low-key though, Danny was much more calm than I would have been, but something about this movie that I love is that it really does keep us on edge by giving us these unique situations and in turn keeping us really engaged. As far as the characters within the movie, with our main character Darcy, played by Carolyn, Bracken, being blind, it adds a really interesting element to the storyline. So while Darcy's character is sweet, she's still a little bit conniving, obviously upset by the loss of her sister, so she's a little bit on a revenge tour. We love that for Darcy. You go, Darcy. Her sister's widowed husband Ted now has a new girlfriend, Yanna, and Darcy and Yanna are essentially forced to spend the night at Ted's house when Darcy shows up unexpected. Yanna cannot find her keys in order to get home, and Ted has to go into work to work the night shift. So we've got the blind sister of Ted's murdered wife and Ted's brand new girlfriend, which happened very recently after the death of his wife. So it's an interesting situation. They're stuck overnight together in the secluded Irish home with, did I mention, the creepy wooden mannequin? Nightmare fuel. Not a good situation. But it is interesting, and what I love about the interactions between the character in the movie is that it feels really real. The script isn't forced, it's very natural dialogue, and each conversation feels very much believable, and the interactions and reactions to each other feel like it would be something that would actually happen. So in conjunction with a good setting, good characters, and basically good situations that we get to explore is the cinematography, which really brings the story to life. I really like the lighting and the camera angles and how they use them throughout the movie. Also, some of the stylistic choices are really cool, like the use of this bright yellow tent in the home and the high contrast with some things they do with that. And also the editing and the sound design, I think, add to the movie. It adds to the already unsettling atmosphere of the movie. So I think that this movie does deliver and is compelling on really every single front. The movie also delivers on the scares, in my opinion. First and foremost, the wooden mannequin, like I said, is just nightmare fuel, but the use of it to create a lot of these tension-building moments And also the jump scares was pretty good. Jump scares always get me, but these jump scares are unlike others. These aren't your normal jump scares. These are your pants shitting jump scares. For real though. There's one jump scare that like was a chill up my spine. The one where Yanna is looking down, if you know what I mean. God damn, that was a trip. So I think this movie is actually pretty chilling and a good one to put on if you do want some decent scares. Final positive of this movie is the ending. The ending part where Ted receives a package at his doorstep in his countryside home. There's some good foreshadowing that comes full circle in this final scene, and how things ultimately end, even after the movie is over, is really just implied, and I like how they did that. It was pretty good, in my opinion. So as far as the negatives for this movie, there are very seldom negatives, which obviously is a good thing. I will say the story does jump around quite a bit, but I do feel like it explains itself well. But if you aren't paying attention, you probably are going to miss something because it does kind of tell the story out of order. It ends up making sense and coming full circle, but I think that maybe if you don't have the attention span, you might get really confused. This isn't a movie I think that you can walk in and out of and be like, oh, I know what's going on. Maybe, but I don't think so. One tiny issue I have with it also is one of the scenes towards the end. This is going to be a spoilers, so if you don't want to listen to this part, I'll have timestamps in the description below, and you can skip this part, so if you don't want to see it, pause here. If you do want to see it, let's continue. So throughout the movie in the psych ward building, we see a couple scenes of a man with essentially like a muzzle on his face, and we just see these scenes very briefly. And then at the end of the movie, we see the man that had the muzzle on get released on Ivan, who is one of the orderlies in the hospital laying on a bed restrained. We see that guy bite Ivan's foot, the one who's laying on the bed. We see the guy with the muzzle on at the end of the bed biting Ivan's foot who's laying in the bed. First and foremost, I'll just stop here and say that made me really uncomfortable and I didn't like it, but I mean, a good movie, usually you feel uncomfortable if it's a pretty good movie and it makes you feel something, and I felt uncomfortableness, but that's beside the fact. Secondly, I was really confused at first about who this person was who was biting Ivan's foot. Apparently he was just a cannibalistic patient, but I wish that they had casted this man to look a little bit more unique, because he wasn't super recognizable, at least to me, without his muzzle, and he looked a lot like Ivan. So when he showed up at the foot of the bed, I was like, who is this man? And it took me a while to connect the dots to who this person actually was, the cannibalistic patient that they sent in to essentially eat Ivan. But I think that it would have been a little bit more clear if they had made a bit of a different casting decision, somebody who looked a little bit different, who I could actually decipher who he was. But you know, that's a very much of a nitpick, and it was just something that kind of took me out of the movie for a second, because I'm like, wait, what just happened? Rewind, what just happened? But anyway, so overall, guys, I loved Oddity. I thought that they did almost everything right stylistically. Despite the movie having a lot of supernatural elements, it still felt so realistic, which is pretty impressive in my opinion. I like the characters themselves, and I like the situations that they were put into and the interactions that they had together. It was a great storyline, well written, well executed, and delivered on the scare. Not to mention a very compelling setting with an unsettling atmosphere. I give this a 4.5 out of 5. Great stuff. My only issue was an extremely minor casting one, and the warning that it has the potential to get confusing, but if you pay attention, which I'm sure you will because of how the movie draws you in, you will have no trouble at all and actually really enjoy the way the movie is told and the story that unravels. But let's see what the general consensus is. Okay, average score 3.9, 96 Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not surprised. This movie is great. And I think that for some people, it actually went a little bit under the radar. And I will say one thing that I went into it with, I had seen like little pieces and pictures of the wooden mannequin, but I didn't watch the trailer. I didn't really know what this one is about, but I did hear a little bit of buzz. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this. I think that it's supposed to be good. And if my friends were telling me I needed to watch it, and I knew I wanted to. And so I'm glad I went into this kind of blind. It was really surprising, a really great experience. And obviously the audience in general is really liking this as well. Average score 3.9. So pretty good stuff. I really would recommend this, first of all, to any horror fan. It has all the right elements working together, and in my opinion, really does deliver on the scares. I'd also recommend this to people who like a good thriller. While there are some scary moments, there's not too much gore, and it has a great mystery, and it has a little bit of a whodunit element. So I think that anybody who loves a good thriller may really enjoy this one. I'm probably one of the few that haven't seen this movie until now, but if you haven't seen it, what are you waiting for? Go watch it. After all, whether it be a person, place, or thing, who doesn't love a good oddity? But what did you guys think? Do you guys agree? Do you disagree? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you have some mixed elements? Let me know what you thought. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you guys for watching, and catch me next time. Peace.